Walk through almost any marina with a sailing fleet and you'll see it. Masts standing over decks nobody's touched in years. Sails still zipped in their covers, slowly turning to mildew. Owners who haven't shown up in years. And here's the part that makes this worse than a regular boat. Getting rid of a dead powerboat is already a nightmare. A dead sailboat is worse because of two things bolted onto it that no powerboat has. A mast standing 40 feet in the air, and thousands of pounds of lead buried in the bottom of the hull. That's the reason. And it's insane. This story starts the same place the rest of boating's fiberglass problem starts, back in the 1960s and the 1970s, when builders figured out how to mold a hull out of fiberglass instead of carving it from wood. For sailboats, that meant one company could suddenly crank out thousands of identical hulls a year. Take Catalina yachts. Just 3 of their models, the Catalina 27, the Catalina 30, and the Catalina 25, added up to more than 18,000 boats sold across the 1970s and into the 1990s. One company, 3 models, 18,000 hulls, and Catalina was just one builder among dozens doing the same thing. The most detailed histories of the brand describe those boats bluntly as 40 to 55-year-old boats today. The fiberglass held up exactly like it was supposed to. Everything else on those boats, the wiring, the engine, the rigging, the owner, did not. Now here's the part that applies to every fiberglass boat, sail, or power. When a car dies, it still has a floor under its value. Scrap steel is worth something, so a junkyard will always take it off your hands. A fiberglass hull has no floor. You can't melt it down, you can't sell the glass, and it won't break down in a landfill in your lifetime. Once a boat crosses from worth something to worth nothing, it doesn't stop at 0. It keeps falling, and the owner is the one left holding a negative number. But here's where sailboats get genuinely insane, and it's the part most people never think about. A powerboat that dies is, at its core, a fiberglass tub with an engine in it. A sailboat that dies is that same fiberglass tub, except now it's got a 40 or 50 foot aluminum mast standing straight up, held in place by a web of steel cable rigging, and bolted to the very bottom of the hull is a chunk of lead or cast iron that can weigh more than 2 tons. On a boat like the Catalina 30, that ballast alone is over 4,000 pounds. On bigger cruisers, it's more. Companies that specialize in sailboat removal say it flat out. The keel makes standard removal basically impossible. You can't just hook a strap around a sailboat and drag it onto a trailer the way you might with a powerboat, because that lead or iron weight is doing everything it can to stay exactly where gravity put it. And it's not even one kind of keel. Fin keels, full keels, bulb keels, swing keels, every one of them sits and weighs differently, and everyone changes how the boat has to be lifted. On top of that, the mast and rigging have to come down first, in their own separate operation, before the hull can even move. A simple sloop has one mast and one set of standing rigging to deal with. A cutter is still one mast, just with extra rigging for a second headsail. A ketch or a schooner has 2 masts entirely, which means 2 complete de-rigging jobs before you've removed a single pound of fiberglass. One tow captain in Miami put it perfectly when describing a derelict sailboat removal. "This isn't like a car," he said. "You don't just tow away a 30-foot sailboat. You rent a crane and a barge. You smash the boat apart. You pull the engine separately. It's a whole process every single time. That complexity shows up directly in the price. Removing a derelict vessel in Florida, where the sailboat fleet from that 1970s and 1980s boom is enormous, runs somewhere around $300 to $500 per foot. Do that math on a 30-foot cruiser, and you are looking at $9,000 to $15,000 before anyone has hauled away a single piece of it. And this is not a hypothetical. In January of 2026, a 45-foot sailboat ran aground on a beach in Flagler Beach, Florida, with a couple and a child still aboard who had to be rescued. The following month, the city had to approve an emergency contract just to get the wreck off the sand. The bill came to $42,750 for one boat on one beach in one county. Multiply that by every marina, river mouth, and mooring field in the country, and you start to see the size of the number nobody is adding up. There is also a wall waiting for any owner who actually finds a buyer. Most lenders will not write a loan on a hull older than 15 or 20 years, so a buyer for that 30-year-old cruiser often has to bring cash, full stop. Insurers have become brutal on old boats, especially anywhere near hurricane country. Many companies in Florida, Texas, and Louisiana will not even quote a price on an older sailboat without a written hurricane plan first, and plenty just say no entirely. So even a willing buyer can hit a wall before money ever changes hands. And underneath all of it sits one more ugly little detail. In a lot of states, the penalty for simply walking away from a boat is laughably small next to the cost of disposing of it properly. In Virginia, for instance, the fine for abandoning a vessel is $500. Compare that to $10,000 or $20,000 to have a sailboat properly de-rigged, craned out, and hauled to a landfill, and the math does itself. The system is not just failing to stop this. In many places, it is quietly cheaper to break the law than to do the right thing. So picture the actual owner. Their 30-year-old cruiser needs new standing rigging, the engine is tired, and the bottom has blisters. Selling it for what they think it is worth is impossible, because any buyer's surveyor is going to find all of that, assuming a buyer with cash even shows up. Fixing it costs more than the boat is worth. And getting rid of it the right way means paying a sailboat removal crew thousands of dollars out of pocket for the privilege of no longer owning it. So a lot of owners do the only thing that does not cost them anything up front and barely breaks the law if it ever gets noticed at all. They stop paying the slip fee and stop returning calls. Now it's the Marinas' problem, and eventually it's the state's. This is exactly why the phrase free sailboat exists, and why it is not a joke. Go looking right now, and you will find real listings. A 1967 Alberg 30, a genuine 30-foot ocean-capable cruiser, posted by an owner who says it still floats fine, it just has no engine, and he is out of money to fix it. A 1981 Hunter 25, sitting in a marina with no title and no keys, because it was auctioned off through a storage lien after the original owner vanished. These are not junk dinghies. These are real cruising sailboats. The kind people once dreamed of sailing to the Bahamas, now worth less than the cost of the cushions inside them. And that dream is part of the problem too. Sailboats, more than most boats, get bought by people chasing a specific fantasy. Fix it up, move aboard, sail away. A huge number of older cruising sailboats end up as liveaboards, somebody's actual home tied to a dock. When that person's life falls apart, when they get sick, run out of money, or pass away, the boat doesn't just become an abandoned hull. It becomes a home, fully loaded with someone's belongings, sitting in a slip that the marina can no longer rent out, with nobody left to call. And that mast sitting up in the air isn't just dead weight on a calm day, it's a sail catching wind even when the sails are down. And in a hurricane, that's exactly the problem. A dragging sailboat doesn't just drift into the boat next to it. Its rigging snags the neighboring boat's rigging on the way past. And one loose mooring can turn into a tangled chain of half a dozen boats pulling each other apart. After a bad storm season, a marina that had a handful of abandoned sailboats can suddenly have a whole raft of them, fused together by their own rigging, and nobody quite sure which owner is responsible for which boat anymore. If this is opening your eyes a little, do me a favor and hit subscribe, because I dig into the money side of boating every single week, the stuff nobody puts in the brochure. In 2025, the Boat US Foundation, funded by a grant from the NOAA Marine Debris Program, ran the largest abandoned boat cleanup in American history. They pulled more than 300 derelict vessels out of coasts, rivers, and harbors across 5 states, 2 territories, and a tribal reservation. They also built the first real national database, because until recently, nobody even had an accurate count. Over in the European Union, more than 100,000 fiberglass boats reach the end of their life every single year, and only about 2,000 of them actually get recycled. The rest just disappear. And globally, some estimates put the number of boats nearing the end of their life at 35 to 40 million. Take that with a grain of salt. It is a rough guess, but even half that number is staggering. Here's the part that should change how you see this. The generation that bought those Catalinas and Hunters new back in the 1970s and the 1980s isn't in their 30s and 40s anymore. The math on those boats being 40 to 55 years old cuts both ways. The original owners are now in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, if they're still around at all. A lot of these boats didn't get abandoned by careless people. They got inherited by someone's kids, who have no interest in sailing, no idea what a derelict sailboat removal costs, and a dock contract in a dead parent's name that nobody's bothered to cancel. The boat just sits there, technically owned, practically orphaned, slowly becoming everyone else's problem. There are a few bright spots. Some states now run free drop-off and turn in programs specifically so an old sailboat never has to become a derelict in the first place. Rhode Island has tested ways to actually shred and break down old fiberglass hulls. But these are small programs against an enormous tide of boats that are only getting older. Until getting rid of a sailboat costs less than walking away from one, the math that's filling up marinas with ghost boats isn't going to change. So next time you walk past a marina and see a sailboat with a furled sail gone gray and a mast nobody's touched in years, you're not looking at neglect. You're looking at the exact moment a boat stopped being an asset and became a liability nobody knew how to put down. What do you think happens to all of these boats over the next 20 years? Tell me in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.